Today we're leaving Aquarius for a couple days, and I need to get a video about insurance out. So let's talk a little bit about insurance right now. These are saltwater toilets. The first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of all the salt out of the pipes. So I fill them with fresh water. So now that I got a bunch of fresh water in there, we're going to put a half a bottle of vinegar in there. And just put that in the pipes. And that's just your insurance policy about a stopped up toilet. Now, if you're at anchor, there's a couple things you can do. Turn on your anchor light, of course, but you can have marker lights in the front and the back of your boat. We use blue. Don't use red or green because they're navigation lights. Use blue in the front and the back of your boat. That'll help people to see you just a little bit better. And make sure your boat is tied up well if you're at the dock. Let's take a look.
Got crossing lines, got two lines. You can see that my boat is tied up very well. And check to make sure that your boat from the front is also, those things, they make rust marks. Do not leave those things down on the ground. Check your lines at the front. We're working on that.
So the best way to figure out how to tie up your boat in a certain location is to look how the other boats are all tied up, because local knowledge is your friend. One of the things you really should make sure that you turn off is the water. Because if you get a leak in the water supply, all your water, and that's 550 liters, is going to end up someplace in your boat that you don't want it. It would be pretty tough for there to be an electrical fire if there's hardly any electrons flowing through the wires. So we're all ready to go. We'll leave our fridges on. Looks like everything else is off. We're going to turn our everything on the AC panel. It's all off. And then we're going to shut it off at the dock. But of course, that's not the insurance that I'm going to be talking about in this video. But this is what I think about insurance in general.
In order to have days like this, you're going to have days like this. This is Tips on Tuesday. We're going to talk about what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Stay tuned so you don't feel like doing this. If you like these videos, please subscribe and give us a like. And if you have anything to add to the conversation or any questions, please leave them below.
This video is going to be about our journey regarding yacht insurance. And it's only going to be about our journey. So don't think it's going to be everything about yacht insurance, but this will tell you what we think about our yacht insurance. Number one, When we bought Aquarius, I had called 5 different companies, and all of them turned me down. I thought, well, I'll just give them a call. So I called the insurance company up, and I asked them, I said, why can't you cover Aquarius? And the first thing they said was, how big is Aquarius? And I said, it's 53 feet. And they said, well, how many boats have you owned before you bought Aquarius? And I said, none. And they said, well, how big is Aquarius? And I said, 53 feet. And they said, well, how many boats have you owned? And I said, I've already answered that question. And they said, exactly, we can't insure you. Out of 5 insurance companies that I filled out all the paperwork, and it does take time to fill out all that paperwork, your history, all the history on a boat for your whole life, you know, all the courses that you took, you know, all the races that you sailed in, you want to have them all logged. So it was a bit of time filling out all this paperwork. So I was rather down, and then ended up emailing the one that I liked the best. And I said in my email, I've never had a claim against my car insurance, motorcycle insurance, or airplane insurance, or my home insurance. I don't understand why you think that I would be a bad risk. And then they wrote back and they said, oh, you have a pilot's license? And I said, yes. So they said, we can insure you. And that was our first insurance policy that we got. It was because I had a pilot's license, not because I had any experience in boats. So it was more, for this particular insurance, it was more that I had the pilot's license. That was with Topsail. And we had a good run with Topsail. We sailed all through the Caribbean. We went through the Panama Canal. We even crossed the whole Pacific down to New Zealand. We had to, of course, contact them, you know, for 2 years and basically ask for, you know, well, what's the rate to cross the Pacific? What's the rate, you know, to go down to New Zealand? And so they gave us, you know, that window, what time we could go, when we could be in certain zones. And so we got insured all the way down to New Zealand. Well, once we got to New Zealand, there was a couple things that happened. There were 2 big storms in the Caribbean. And then they had a Medicane that went through the Mediterranean. And then they had some boat that burned up, I believe it was in Germany somewhere, that was worth about $500 million. And that, of course, caused real pain. Well, altogether, those 3 things happened within 1 year. And that caused major problems in the insurance company. So when we got to New Zealand, we found that 1, our insurance company was dropping us, and that was because they dropped all U.S. boats, not just Aquarius. All U.S. boats got dropped. So several other, you know, YouTubers probably also had a problem getting insurance back in 2018, 2019. At that point, we had to go out and search and find a new insurance company. This time we found Merkel, and that's a US-based insurance company. So we had something called the Jackline plan. And we'd had that for about 2 years. We had that to Fiji, Vanuatu, we got up into Thailand, and then during COVID, we also had the Jackline policy. Well, in Thailand, I put in lithium batteries, and I didn't know it for a fact. I just read it somewhere that many insurance companies had a problem with lithium batteries. So I wrote them an email, my insurance company. I probably should have never wrote the email. I would have never had a problem. But I wrote them an email, and they said, well, it doesn't say anything in the policy that you can't have lithium batteries, but since you told us, we can't, you know, offer you insurance
for the next season. So I had to find some other insurance. So then I started looking and asking around in Thailand, and Matt found us a plan to actually cross the Indian Ocean to the Maldives, to Seychelles, to Tanzania, and then up through the Red Sea. That was our most expensive year in insurance, and it cost us about $6,500 or so US dollars to insure Aquarius. But of course, I didn't insure her at her, what I think I could sell her for. I insured her for much less because it was much cheaper. I don't inflate the actual value of Aquarius when I try to insure Aquarius. Some people want it insured for, I gotta have it insured for, this high amount, but I don't think that that's really necessary. I want a backstop, I want somebody to help out, but it doesn't have to be the full value. So that actually got us all the way up into the Mediterranean. Insurance is much cheaper in the Mediterranean. So I thought, well, I'm going to shop it around this time, and I did. And I found another broker that knows the Med a little bit better. So Matt really understood, and that's Matt Slatter, really understood the Indian Ocean. He understands Australia, Thailand, and those type of areas. And so I used Matt for those areas, and I would say if you're in those areas, give him a call. But up in the Med, he might not know that territory as well, because I got a really good rate from another insurance company. His name's Gal, and his information is below. So check him out if you're looking for insurance. But we got insurance through him at a much lower rate. That ended up costing just a little bit less than $3,000 US dollars for the year. And that won't take me across an ocean, but I'll get insured all the way through the Med, all the way to the islands just off Africa, just before I take off on the Atlantic crossing. So I'm covered up until probably November or so, December, and then I'll have to try to get a rider on that policy, which will get me across the Atlantic and down to the Caribbean. You never know how good an insurance company is until you have a claim. I've never had a claim against any of my insurance companies, except one now. I had one insurance claim against a homeowner's policy in Lithuania. That is it. That's the only claim I've ever had, and that insurance company did a great job. But with boat insurance, I've never had a claim. I've never talked to somebody that had a claim with the insurance company for their yacht, so really, I don't know. I don't know how these insurance companies respond, but I know that I have a large deductible, so most of the things that would happen to Aquarius would probably fall under the deductible, so I usually don't call the insurance company. And there was one time where we got hit by another boat in Panama, and I basically just went straight to that company and told them they have to fix Aquarius. I didn't even call my insurance company to get help on that because I didn't want to have a claim against my insurance. As you're traveling around the world, I don't believe that one insurance company is going to be able to cover you the entire way with good rates. Have several brokers give you rates, and they can shop it out to several different companies. If one broker already quoted one insurance company, let him know right up front, these are the companies that I already have quotes from. When we went to New Zealand, we needed to have, I believe it was $7 million US dollars third-party liability to go into the marina. I just looked, Papua Marina now only requires about $3 million US dollars, But if you go into Australia, I believe that they require $10 million of third-party liability regarding cleanup and wreck removal. So different places have different requirements, especially for third-party liability. I don't think that they really care what you insure your boat for, but they want to make sure that if you crash it, that you can afford to get the boat removed. I think you should deal with a broker. I think brokers usually can find or go out to more insurance companies than just one. There is one caveat to that, and I believe that if you're in one small area, you're not trying to go around the world, you might be able to find an insurance company like Boat US or something like that that covers your boat if you're just in one area. You're not going down to the Caribbean or crossing an ocean. You probably find some cheap insurance that way. If you're going to stop and stay in one place for a while, like when we got to Thailand and we had to stay there because of COVID for a couple of years, we might have been able to find some local insurance that would be cheaper. And I believe that if you're going to stop cruising and moving, and you're going to stay in one territory for, let's say, a year or two, you might be able to find some cheaper insurance through local companies. So I would definitely, as soon as you arrive someplace that you're going to stay for a couple of years, start talking to some insurance brokers in those communities, and you'll probably get a better deal. And don't burn a bridge with a previous broker, because there is a chance that you might have to go back to that broker to get insurance again. Or maybe you're going to come back to the same territory and then you're going to be using that particular broker again. So don't go burning bridges with brokers. It's probably a better idea to just say, you know what, I found a better price someplace else and I'm going to use them, but I'll come back and use you at a later date. Keep a good relationship with your brokers because they can help you in the future. One of the big things with changing your insurance is rig checks and surveys. A rig check can cost you as much as $1,000, and a survey can cost you as much as $2,000. So if you're going to change companies to save you $1,000 or $1,500, it might end up costing you more, because the rig check and the survey that you'll have to get because you switched insurance companies might make it cost effective just to stay with your old insurance company. So that's something to just keep in mind. Insurance companies will give you a box, usually, like the Caribbean. They'll give you a box and say, if you're in that box during these dates, any named storm that damages your boat, you will not be insured for, or they're going to give you some huge deductible that you're going to have to pay if you're in that and you are damaged by a named storm. So the best thing, I believe, and what we did was we weren't in the box during that time. Or if you're in the box, just be ready to move out of the box at any time. If you see something coming at you, just leave the box. So if you're in Martinique and you see a storm coming, just head south. So within a day or two, you would be out of the zone, and then you would be just fine. Head to Trinidad. That's where. I don't believe that acts of terrorism, acts of war are covered by your insurance. So I believe that if we would have got attacked by Somalian terrorists or pirates when we sailed up off the coast of Somalia, I don't believe that we would have been covered. So, you know, they jack up the price of the insurance in that territory, but you don't really get covered for what they're jacking the price up for. At least that's my opinion. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I was led to believe. Another thing, read your policy. Try to understand what it says. And if you have any questions about your policy, talk to your broker. Most of the policies have a separate plan for your dinghy and your engine. But if your dinghy gets stolen, let's say you tie your dinghy to the back of your boat at night, and then somebody comes by and cuts the rope and takes your dinghy away. I don't think you get covered for that. It has to be locked up, and they have to show that, you know, they actually ripped something apart to get your dinghy. It can't be just untie a knot or a nice little knife that just cuts a rope. So, you know, put your dinghy on board, lift it up, but insure your dinghy, of course, but be aware that it's not 100% that you get covered for your dinghy if your dinghy gets stolen someplace if it's not locked up. So, in order to get covered for your personal items, you're going to have to list them all. And of course, they're going to jack up your insurance rates if you put all your computers down and all your cameras and all the gear down. So, in my opinion, not put it on the insurance. That's just my thing. I'm trying to keep my insurance rates down. I know that I might lose something, but that's what I'm doing. If you have any questions about insurance that I might be able to answer, leave them in the comments below. I'll leave a list of all of the brokers that we used and the insurance companies that we used as we traveled around the world. To be honest with you, I think they're pretty good, but like I've said before, I have never had a claim, but I am sure that the people that I listed below would be able to help you. Thank you very much. I hope this helps. Again, leave some comments below if you have any questions about insurance.
If you like this video, give us a like down below and click here to subscribe. That really helps us. And if you want to watch more of us, click one of those.
They said they came from Spanish.